Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Gabe Gurman. I am the co-founder and COO of CareerPlace. And thank you for joining our CareerPlace introduction webinar. Just so you're aware, this webinar is being recorded. So if you have any colleagues that couldn't join today, we should have a link probably out sometime tomorrow. And you can definitely share the link with them and so they can see this introduction webinar themselves. And also on the Zoom controls, you'll see a Q&A section. Alex should have left something in the chat for you guys to be aware. If you have any questions, please go to the Q&A console. Enter your questions over there. At the end of the demo, I will definitely take time to answer those questions. So with that, let's get started. So we started CareerPlace almost 2 years ago at this point. We started our journey, and our mission was very clear. Our mission was to eliminate bias in hiring. And the really reasons why we did this is we wanted to bring consistency for each and every candidate applying to a job, promote diversity for all those, for the folks looking for a job and the folks hiring for positions, and in the end, only deliver qualified candidates to those hiring organizations. And as you know, in order to solve a problem, the obvious thing you need to do is to get to the root of the problem. And that's a very critical thing in order to solve any particular problem. And I'm sorry if I'm being very simplistic over here, but I think it's really important to illustrate, and it's important for me to illustrate what we've done in CareerPlace to get to the root of the bias in hiring problem. So I'm going to start with an analogy, and I do this a lot in a lot of situations to kind of explain, get into the root of a problem. And I'm going to share with you something that's happened to me actually twice in my life. And both of these, this incident happened to me both times coming home after a dinner party. And it was this situation, the dreaded busted dishwasher. So when you're hit with a problem, the first step is awareness, right? You have to be aware of the problem. Now for this problem, it was very obvious. My floor was flooded. And what do you got to do to solve the problem? Well, in this case, the first situation, or the first thing you do is you throw towels at the problem, literally. And obviously, this is a short-term solution to the problem. It's not really fixing the problem itself. So in order to really fix the problem, what you have to do in this situation is get to that root cause. And actually, in both of my situations, it was a broken pipe. So this picture really works perfectly for me. You get to the root cause in order to truly fix the problem. So now going back to the problem and part of our mission and realizing that the problem we're solving over here, we know that bias is bad for business, right? It's been around for a long time, and for all the reasons that's on the screen over here, I'm not going to go through all the reasons, but these are the reasons why it's been bad for business. And we know that bias in hiring could lead to bad hires, and we know that there are financial implications of a bad hire. So we've seen studies that a bad hire can cost up to 2 times annual salary. I was astounded at seeing this statistic that close to 40% of hires don't last a year within an organization. And just to kind of quantify this out, we take an average salary of $40,000 a year, 60 million hires in the US per year on average. We're looking at a $400 billion problem. And to kind of bring this down to a more personal level, look at a 1,000-person company. That translates to a $1.6 million problem to the bottom line. And it's not just the financial issues, right? There can also be legal action, God forbid, brand tarnishing, losing other employees in your team that can all come from that. So bias begins with the resume, and that's something that should be very clear. And it's not just gender and ethnicity where the bias happens. Bias happens for a lot of reasons when you're looking at a resume. It could be gaps in the years of experience, an LGBT association that someone may have on their resume, companies that they work for, a degree they don't have, or a school that they went to that someone doesn't like. These are reasons why resumes are thrown in the garbage long before a hiring organization or a recruiter knows something about a candidate or knows what they could truly bring to the table and what value they can bring to the job. And recognizing this problem, and like I said with the dishwasher, I use with the dishwasher example, awareness is key, right? And there's been a lot of great things happening over the past couple of years in terms of unconscious bias awareness training. It is critical. But you can go ahead and you can close down your 5,000 retail outlets for a day and do awareness training for all your folks, but realize this is just a short-term solution. It's the equivalent of throwing towels at the problem. It's not getting to the root cause. Why is this? Because we're born to be biased, right? Bias is what gives us our shortcuts. It enables us to make decisions on a daily basis. No amount of awareness training will ever get you to the point of cuddling and petting a tiger and then running away screaming from a cute little kitty cat. So redacting doesn't work either. And I've seen plenty of solutions where resumes have redacted information, blacked out names and years and so forth, because there's always going to be subjective information that you'll see about a person long before knowing anything else about them that could cause bias as well. So fix the root cause, right? Fix those things that's going to enable somebody before you know anything about them. So we dug and peeled back the onion. And what we really had to do as part of our solution to fixing the problem of bias in hiring is reinvent hiring, flip around the process. So existing solutions today, and this is how it's been for so many years, they all start with the resume. They all start with the subjective, the bias in information that hiring managers or recruiters will see as a first step. Candidates are known all the way through the process. They're evaluated typically by telling the past, which is usually very well scripted, and it's usually only the good stories that are talked about in the resumes, with a process that's disjointed and having poor candidate experience, which is something we can't afford today. So with CareerPlace, what have we done? Rather than starting with the resume, we start with the job. And what does success look like for a candidate who would be put into that position? Where candidates are kept anonymous all the way through until they're deemed qualified to actually perform the job. And they're evaluated not by the past or what they've done in the past, they're evaluated by giving them the ability to demonstrate what they can do for you at the job at hand, with a process that's consistent for each and every candidate applying to the job, no matter what information could be lurking in their resume. With a very positive candidate experience as well, we do a lot around communication back to the candidate regarding where they are in the process. Think of CareerPlace as the funnel on the screen, where candidates can come from various sources. It could be active candidates applying. There could be internal candidates within your organization who are applying, referrals from other employees, fellow employees, or passive candidates that you may find, searching LinkedIn. All candidates would go through the funnel, and they will all be treated consistently through the evaluation process and anonymously, where in the other end of the funnel, what's produced out of CareerPlace are the short list of highly qualified candidates. Let's break this funnel down and show you exactly how this works. So the funnel is broken into 3 stages. The first stage we call the qualification stage. And this is where every candidate that applies will go through, and it's a very quick phase. It's usually 30 to 60 seconds, and it's where we make sure the candidate meets the needs and requirements of the hiring organization. Everything from, are you willing to work in New York City? Are you willing to travel 70% of the time? We'll ask about comp, and we ask very carefully. We'll ask the candidate what is the minimum they're expecting for this type of position, and as long as they're within the negotiation range, we'll pass them through. Once they are qualified and meet all the needs and requirements of the organization, we do give them a soft skills assessment or a psychometric based on or around the occupation they're being hired for. If they pass the qualification, if they pass the assessment, they're immediately brought to the second stage. This second stage we call the demonstrate stage. We also call it the, hey, show me, don't tell me stage. This is a stage that's typically defined by the hiring manager or by some subject matter expert within the hiring organization. And it will contain 2 to 3 job scenarios, typical things a candidate would see in the position that they're hiring for. It could be challenges. Candidates on their own time would submit responses to these scenarios. The responses will be reviewed by the hiring team. And for the ones that are deemed, or the ones who feel that the hiring team feel that would be appropriate or could do the job at hand based on the responses, they're invited to the third stage. And the third stage, and by the way, these stages over here can be configured by the hiring organization. They can be turned on, turned off. But the third stage is all around culture and fit. And this is where the candidate can be asked 2 or 3 questions around that. And we use video technology where the candidate on their own time could record themselves using their phone or their laptops, usually 30 to 60-second responses to these types of questions. The responses are again reviewed by the hiring organizations. And for the ones who are deemed a good fit for the organization, those become the short list of the highly qualified candidates. And it's only at that time that the hiring team, whether it's the recruiter or the hiring manager, can reveal who the candidate is. See their name, contact information, the resume, or other pertinent information around the candidate. Now, looking at this page over here, you may have a question about, well, what's the amount of time a candidate's going to spend doing this? It looks like a daunting process. Well, the reality is, in terms of, I'll call it keyboard time, the amount of time a candidate will spend end-to-end in each one of these phases could be as little as 10 minutes. It can be as long as we've seen some processes where it could take total, again, stage 1 plus time in stage 2 plus time in stage 3, up to an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. It really is driven a lot by this demonstrate stage and the homework assignments or the challenges that the candidates will need to respond to. This solution is fully integratable into the applicant tracking systems, all the common applicant tracking systems, and it also works perfectly fine standalone. So with that, I would now like to switch to the demo, and hopefully this will work over here, and it does. Great. So welcome to CareerPlace. This is our corporate side dashboard. I am acting as a recruiting organization hiring for universities. And what you see over here are a couple of jobs that are actually, you see the status of posted. I would also see jobs that are not posted yet, that are in the draft stage. And I'll show you what a typical job posting would look like over here that a candidate could see. Of course, I'm going to get this. Oh, there we go. Good. So this is it could be branded for the corporate side. You could see the basic job description. We are big into video. We'd like to have organizations share with them either culture statements through video or a job description through video. You'll see things like job differentiation and culture being shown first and foremost. Those are very important for an organization looking to hire. And of course, down to requirements and responsibilities and where the job is located. So candidates would simply hit apply and they would start their application process. Going back to the dashboard, the corporate dashboard. So let's look at these jobs over here. Here's one for a financial analyst. And you'll notice it's kind of a dashboard over here, I forgot the term I was going to use, but statistics of the job itself. First one's called stats. You'll see this represents our hiring funnel that you saw in the presentation. And you can kind of get a quick view of how many folks have applied and gone through the various stages. I can click on it to get a lot more detail. And you'll see a lot of information about the statistics of the job itself. So here's the first one. You could see how many people week over week will show this information. I believe it's for the past 3 months. Have either applied, have either viewed the job, and below is applied for the job. And this can help determine, hey, do I have this on enough job boards? Why are people not applying? Maybe there's not enough information on the job itself. This donut over here would show, right now, everything's shown as organic. That means that candidates got to it from a career page, usually internal to an organization. But if it came from ZipRecruiter or Indeed or Glassdoor, those would show here as well. And you can see the performance of the different job boards on place over there. These next 3 sections represent the 3 stages of that funnel. So that first stage, the qualification stage, if you remember, that was a totally automated stage. There are a lot of knockout questions over there. And what we show over here are the reasons why people have been knocked out in that stage. And you see in this funnel over here, or I'm sorry, this pie chart over here, the number 1 reason has been skills. And if you scroll down more, we'll show a little graph to really represent areas of concern. Well, it may be areas of concern. And you can see this job had a lot of required skills that candidates tend to answer. One of them down in the bottom, 5 candidates did not have this skill, so they were knocked out. Now that may be fine. Or maybe it's not fine. Maybe you're being too tough on these skills. You can always go back to your job, edit the job, remove, let's say we wanted to remove this query database QDB. What that would do is automatically behind the scenes, we'll invite these 5 candidates back and we'll say that the qualifications of the job has changed. Are you still interested? And give them a chance to continue their application process for this job. Let's go now to look at the other parts of the dealing with the job and application. So the next two boxes over here represent those stages where that require review. Stage 2 and Stage 3, very clear flag indicating that myself, and I'm a hiring manager here, has action to perform. And here you see the candidates who have submitted homework, see applications requiring review. You also see in the bottom over here, these are applications that were deemed unqualified or unsatisfactory. And they're kept over here. We don't get rid of them because there could be a chance that it could be re-reviewed and you may want to change your mind on somebody. But these are the applicants that are in review right now, and you can see very clearly that these applicants are anonymous. There is no information you can get about them except for this unique ID that's on the job itself. If I click on review, you can see this is how you review the homework submissions from the candidate. This job, financial analyst, only has one scenario, one homework question, and here's that question. The question involves an attachment that the candidate had to look at. In blue is some hints from the person who was responsible for writing this question. It's really meant for the team who's assessing the responses from the candidate. It's basically what to look for in the answer from the candidate and how you would evaluate them. So this way, everyone who's reviewing the answers, everyone who's part of the hiring team, can make sure that they treat the candidate or treat the responses fairly and evaluate the responses fairly. So down here is the answer from the candidate itself. And you'll see on the right over here an audit trail of comments and ratings given by people in the hiring team. This job has several people in the hiring team. There's a recruiter, there's a hiring manager, and there's several subject matter experts involved with reviewing over here. And it's at this point, after they've been reviewed, that the hiring manager recruiter can take this candidate and move them on to the next step, or decide that they're not really qualified for this position and stop them at this point. For the ones that go in this job, this has an interview stage defined. The ones who go to the next step over here, same kind of look and feel, same interface. These are the applicants. They're anonymous. You can review their interview submissions or their video submissions around culture and fit. And again, review them, move them on to the next step. And this is that last stage, that revealed stage. And this is where you can unlock the candidate, reveal the candidate. And I'll open one over here that I've already unlocked. And you can see all the information about them. I could see their contact information. I could see their resume. I could see other bits and pieces of information about them. I could look at still review their homework submission. I can and see just if I wanted to review their responses over there. I can look at also the video interview, that stage 3 piece over there. I could also chat with the candidate and say, hey, we like your stuff. We'd like to bring you in for an interview and use this to communicate with them and to close out the whole process over there. So that is the review process of dealing with a candidate. Something I promised last month at our last webinar was to show off a new feature, and I do have it set up over here. It's our adverse impact report. So what you see over here, and this is an example for a job. Once you've made a decision to hire somebody in the job, you can actually pull a report, we call it the adverse impact report, to see within the funnel, all the stages within the funnel, the demographic information of all the candidates, the ones who decided to divulge their information. Ethnicity, gender, disability, veteran, age, all that information is shown over here so you can see the layout and see what the mix of the candidates at each stage in the funnel, and use this information to decide, okay, was something in place over here where potentially you were not fair to a particular demographic. But the main thing is that, due to the fact that everyone is anonymous all the way through, what this will show is that you really are being fair to everyone throughout the process. You can export this report and be able to share it with management and so forth. So that is the demo. At this point, what I'll ask you to do, Alex, let me go back to the presentation, which really is not much to show over here. What I wanted to do at this point was to kind of go into a Q&A section. Or if there's anything else in the application you'd like to see, you can also put that in Q&A. I'll gladly show it to you.